real reason why we see this ripple effect happening in the sky is going to blow your mind. Now, this is what resonant frequencies look like when they are pitched into water. So different frequencies are being pitched into this water, and it creates different shapes and different patterns. Now, let's take a look at what this frequency does to sand, 4129. See this pattern? Looks very similar to this pattern now, doesn't it? This pattern happens because they are beaming ELF frequencies into the sky. And this is exactly what they are using to do this. It is called H.A.A.R.P, and it's run by the military. Now, you can literally go outside and observe this yourself. They drop chemicals from planes, then they use H.A.A.R.P to disperse those chemicals and block out the sun. All you gotta do is look into this stuff. They literally admit they're spraying millions of tons of chemicals into the atmosphere to block out the sun. And you can go look up the hundreds of patents the US has on weather control and doing exactly what I'm telling you. This is what a normal sky looks like, guys. And this is what weather modification looks like. This is why you don't see skies like this in Mexico, because they banned weather modification. They put this right in your face of all of your favorite TV shows. Now, the reason I make these videos is because the collective consciousness is shifting. We could be one person waking up a way that will shift the collective consciousness and in turn take down our suppressors. They have been deceiving you your whole lives, and the real truth to everything is found within. Peace and love.
A condensation trail is very similar in many ways to when you go outside on a cold day and exhale. You create a condensation trail. That little cloud is a condensation trail. Now, if you take a 2-mile walk on a cold day and you can turn around and you can see your condensation trail tracking all the way back for 2 miles. That's how crazy it is to think that what we're looking in the sky is actually condensation trails.
The contrails, not the chemical, the contrails occur because of cold air, minus 30. It takes a high altitude, around 30,000 feet plus. There's carbon dioxide and water vapor in that exhaust. That turns to ice crystals, and that's what you see, the white stream behind it. Those white crystals of ice warm up, dissolve, and the smoke goes away. And it never lasts more than a minute. What we're seeing now, and I first could not believe it, and I started looking at the skies, and these are not normal. They're not natural. There's something going on. I don't know who it is or why they're doing it. All I can testify is it's not natural and it's not normal. It's got to be some outside influence doing that. Thank you.
I'm here to give you testimony that chemtrails, they're not contrails, are indeed real. They're spraying almost every day. I watch the clouds and watch the spraying program going on. I want to tell you that we're in very great danger from the pollution that's coming down over us. And we've been led astray by the military-industrial complex, and they're responsible for the cloud creation and weather manipulation programs. They're dark operations. That's why they're not out in the media.
I'm known as Sergeant Kristen Edwards. In 2001, I rose my right hand to the Constitution to defend and uphold. My job was in bioenvironmental engineering. For those of you who don't know what that is, if you've ever heard of OSHA, anyone heard of OSHA? Yeah. I follow the health side. So my job was to ensure that everything that the Air Force was doing, that we were tracking the exposures for all military personnel as related to what was the Air Force doing, how did it relate to health, and what was the Air Force doing and how did it relate to environmental impact. I spent almost 10 years in the Air Force. I'd love to say it was the best 10 years of my life, but I'll tell you about one day that changed my life. My second base was in Oklahoma City at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma. How many of you have heard about geoengineering or chemtrails?
Yeah.
How many of you have heard it's a crazy loon conspiracy theory? I had medals like you couldn't believe. I was the exemplary staff sergeant of the United States Air Force. I actually was transferred from one base to another to do a special operation because of my stellar background. When I was at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma, I heard about geoengineering, and I thought, oh, those crazy conspiracy loons. It was around 2007 that I first heard about geoengineering. And I started to piece the puzzles together like a spouse who thinks their husband or wife is cheating, when all the dots start to connect, right? Well, part of my job in bioenvironmental engineering was to approve hazardous materials that came on the base. So whether you were using a simple spray can of paint or you were ordering an oil solvent to degrease airplanes, I sat at a computer and I approved those hazardous materials on base and tied them to a process into building. Now, there's certain things we all know in the military that are classified, right? So even though I had a security clearance, it says a need-to-know basis. So when I started approving what is called an Air Force Form 3952, the approval of hazardous materials, and I started seeing barium, aluminum oxide, and strontium come on the base from a contractor whose name was not listed, which was not normal, I started to realize that those crazy tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists might not be so crazy.
Never forget.
La madre, ¿qué chingos es eso? Válgame la Virgen Santísima, pues ¿qué es eso, José? Mira. ¿Qué es eso? Se está partiendo el pinche ¡ay, hijos de su chingada madre! Mira, No, pues está cabrón, este pinche pedo está medio raro, ¿no?